Okay, today I feel the need to go, I guess, more in depth in sharing my testimony. I actually was able to do this earlier at the grocery store. I met a couple of gentlemen, and after sharing my testimony, they were able to share with me their struggles and addiction, and we were able to pray. Um, I was a drug addict for many years. First, I was married to my kid's dad. He was physically, emotionally, mentally, verbally abusive. Um, he was on drugs before I knew anything about the drugs, so I didn't know what was going on. And then when I found out what was going on, I blamed everything he did on the drugs. And then when I finally left him, which after 17 years, um, I wasn't right in the head, and I didn't know how to handle that. Um, I had a lot of hurt, a lot of heartache, and I mean, I'd gotten to the point to where I felt like I was nothing. So what's the point? So I left my kids with my mom and my dad, and my family took them. My little brother and my sister-in-law actually took them in, and I left. I took off. I was homeless. I was sleeping couch to couch. It started out with swallowing pain medicine. Um, that was, my drug of choice. I had pain. I needed it to stop. Um, then it went to dabbling with smoking meth. And I smoked weed here and there. Not a whole lot. I started smoking meth more and more. I like the fact that it helped me lose weight. Got all that back now. Um, and then I went to go buy my pain medicine, which like Lortabs, Percocets, didn't matter to me whichever one was available was the one I was gonna get. And my plug didn't have, or drug dealer didn't have any of those. He had something called Opana. And for those that don't know, Opana is it's like Dilaudid, and you can break it down. The first time I tried it, I snorted it. And then the next time I didn't get nothing out of snorting it or swallowing it. These are pretty expensive pills. And then a friend of mine was like, why don't you try shooting it? And I was like, well, I'm not too big on the idea of using a needle. And needless to say, I wanted to get high, guys. It didn't take much to convince me that this was a good plan. And it didn't take much for me to justify it in my own head. So I tried it, and I liked it. I liked it a lot. And that's where I went. I went from shooting the Opanas or the Dilaudids. And that became my whole hustle. That became my whole life. Was, what can I do to get this drug? And then an opportunity arose for me to work for my plug at his business. And so long as I ran his business, which was a used car lot, then I didn't have to hunt. I didn't have to hustle. The deal was, if I ran the car lot, I didn't have to go boost anything, steal anything to sell to make the money for my drug. Like, he would provide what I needed, and he kept his word. I would get up in the morning, and the lot would open. I would open at 9, so I'd get up like 7, sometimes even earlier. If I got up, I was at his house, waking his old self up. Hey man, I need that bump. And then I was over at the car lot, and I'd open the car lot, and then I'd sit there until, like, take car payments and whatnot, and until like 11:30, 12 o'clock in the afternoon. And I would call him, hey, Either I'm going to shut down shop and come your way, or is something coming mine? And usually he already had somebody delivering me my next bump for the day. And then he would show up around 4 or 5 o'clock and give me my last bump for the day. And then, you know, I would hustle to get anything more that I wanted. And that was my daily for like 3 years. Then he got sick. And I preferred what I got from him, which was pills. And then I couldn't get the pills that I wanted when he was in the hospital. So now I have this severe addiction to opiates, and I don't want to be sick. So I started heroin. Heroin would kind of give you the nods, and then meth would, so okay, now I'm level. Yeah, it's dumb. Like, why do any of it? Because drug addicts don't think straight. We think every kind of crooked you can think of. So I was doing that for a while, and I went to shoot up one day, and it was the weirdest thing because I enjoyed getting high. I thoroughly did enjoy getting high. And I prayed, and I asked God to remove the want, like take away my desire to get high. I don't want to stick this needle in my arm anymore, which is weird because, again, I enjoyed the high. So, I know that was a prayer that God put in my heart. Now, I'd been in and out of jail in this time frame. I think the longest stint I had sat was 28 days. And I mean, I get right back out and get high again. Well, 2 weeks after praying this prayer, the DEA, the FBI, and like 5 counties worth of cops were at my front door at 5:45 in the morning. And I asked. I did make it a point because I asked the female cop that had me cuffed, why in the world would you show up at 5:45 in the morning? Like, you want me to be compliant, and I'm already upset that you've woken me up at 5:45 in the morning. Like, we're not friends, And she told me it's the time they chose because it's least likely for anybody to be armed. Needless to say, they got me. So I went in, the DA tried to question me. I was not very compliant at all, as they were going after my plug, and he was an old guy, and I kept telling him, like, just leave him alone, man. Like, I'm not, and I kept telling him, where's my oranges, man? Put me in my orange pajamas and take me in, because I ain't telling you nothing. Again, I was not very compliant. Sitting in the back of that DEA car after this conversation, waiting for them to take me to the jail, is when I had this moment with God where, I had prayed, and man, I was just tired of all of it. I barely see my kids, and that was on me. Like, nobody kept my kids from me. It was just, I didn't want to bring drugs around my family. They would kill me if I did. I'd stolen from them. I'd already, hurt everybody in my family I could. So they didn't trust me. And again, I didn't need to bring drugs, but I wasn't leaving without my drugs. Like, I couldn't be away from my drugs for that long, that's for sure. So, it was just, I needed to be done. And so I prayed, and I asked God. I was like, look, I suck at life. Make me do what you want me to do. Not what I want to do, but what you want me to do, Lord. Make me do your will and not my own. And in this moment, I had this clarity. And it was like every bit of the horrible person I am flashed before my mind. The wretched person that I am and all the horrible things I've done. And in that same moment, I felt love in the deepest possible way that I've ever felt my whole life. In that moment, I understood what my name meant, what grace truly meant, that unmerited favor, that forgiveness I don't deserve, that mercy I shouldn't get. All of that in that moment. And so I went to jail. I should have gotten 7 years, but instead I got 4.5 months, and then they put it on paper. I have 6 felonies. I came home and have made it a point to go to church, and I have a job. I live with my mom. I have a video talking about being returned to my youth. I might not have returned in the face, but I returned to the home. I had to build the trust with my family, and I think they still kind of have moments in the back of their head because, I had tried and failed many times on my own. And I think my brother, my brother Eddie, I think, is the one that really, he sees in a deeper way than anyone else, like that God's gotten a hold of me. I did relapse like a little over a year ago. Not with the needle, thank God. I didn't even have a want for the needle, but I did start smoking heroin. Old friend, perfect timing, bad attitude, just a great combination of this is a bad plan, and I did it. And after a couple months, I came to my family, and I was convicted immediately to confess. I was also a coward. And so finally, I prayed, God, make me courageous, because I don't want to look at these people and tell them. And I finally sat down with my mom and dad, and I was like, I need to tell you something. And I told them that I had relapsed. They were, understandably angry. My mom was like, get out. I'm done. My dad was like, no, she's, we're gonna do what we gotta do. We're gonna get her some help. I remember talking to my brother on the phone, and he was like, what can we do to make you not want to get high? And that was hard, because I had to tell him, if I knew how to make me not want to get high, then I wouldn't have done it to begin with. It's just disappointing. My family was really difficult. I went to a place in Norman for, I guess, when you lose your crap, like mental issues, but they hold you for like 5 days. So I knew for at least that 5 days I wouldn't get high. They kept me until they found me rehab to go to. I went to that rehab all of like 3 weeks. I was kicked out because I talked about Jesus too much. Who'd have thunk? Then I went to like some fake church rehab, which really they were just about donations. They were about money. They were using God for profit. I called them out on it, and they asked me to leave too, and then I came home. In that time frame, what my rehab really was, is my Bible. Paul says, his strength is made perfect in my weakness. Had I not relapsed, I wouldn't realize what that really means. I'm weak. I can't trust me. So I have to pray. I have to look to God. I have to be mindful of where I'm at. I have to be mindful of who I'm around. I can't talk to people that I consider family. Those that aren't dead yet. And I miss them, but I can't talk to them because I can't trust me. Is that hard? It feels secluded sometimes, but then it doesn't. I have Christ, and I have a relationship with Christ. And when I say a relationship, I mean I have to be in my Bible every day. I want to hear what he has to say. I pray for wisdom and He gives it to me in abundance. So I just want to know His word. I'm constantly talking to God about God, and God uses me. And if there's somebody that's unworthy to be used, it is me. There's no reason I should still be here. And there's definitely no reason God should use me. There's nothing special about me. There's nothing good about me. The only thing I'm good at doing is being bad. The only thing I'm good at doing is sinning. And yet God could take such a wretch like me and switch that up. That shows how good God is. Romans 7 talks about the flesh. We get high and it's hard to get away from that. That's our flesh. That's our flesh craving something. The way to battle the flesh is in the spirit. How the heck do I battle in the spirit? What are you talking about? Well, when I pray, I ask God to remove the wants, the desires that I have that aren't from Him. If it's wrong, if it's not your will, Lord, take it from me. Make me do what you want me to do. Psalm 51, give me a willing spirit to do your will. Before I can even ask Him what His will is, I need a willing spirit to do it. So for anybody out there that's still stuck in addiction, or anyone who is recently getting away from addiction, I want you to know right now that Jesus loves you. He accepts you dirty. He's the one who does the cleanup. When we try to clean up, we make a bigger mess. We make it worse. Come to Christ just the way you are and let Him do the rest. He will transform your mind. Get a Bible and read it. Read it when you're angry. Read it when you're frustrated. Read it when you're sad. Read it even when you don't understand it, and pray that He will show you what He means by it, and trust that He will. The book of Isaiah says that His word does not come back void. What God sets out to do, He will do. Trust Him to do it. He loves you. We can't get into heaven with our sin, and that's why Christ died for us. Because He had to pay the debt for us to get in. So that God could see us as Christ, sinless, and we could still get in that narrow gate. So, I love you. Don't give up. Jesus loves you. Ask Him. He will guide you where you need to go. It can be done.